Alright, so today we focused on precision planting and how that can affect our emergence and our stand later in the season. So one of the things we looked at with a cool, wet spring was uneven emergence because of different planting depth and pressure. So one of the things we looked at is here in Santiago, we had a distinct about 14-day window of emergence. So we looked at the first corn plants up and we flagged those with a green flag. We came back 6 days later, flagged our second emergence with a white flag, and on day 12 to 13 we came back and our final corn we flagged with a red flag so we could track those through the season. Now what we see here is a distinct difference in corn plant quality, the stalk quality, and obviously our ear. Our first corn out of the ground is 18 to 20 kernels around. Each kernel row we can keep correlates to about 10 to 11 bushel. Our second corn to come up was about 16 around, and our last corn was only 14, sometimes even 12 kernels around. So we looked at how does that correlate to yield. So we did a soft yield estimate. Our first corn up was 215 to 220 bushel, about average for our irrigated sand acres. Our second corn was only about 180 to 190 bushel, pretty low for what we expect out of these acres. And our last corn was only 130 bushel, which we would consider basically abject failure on irrigated sand like this with high fertility. So what we're looking at is what precision planting tools can we utilize to have all of our corn coming up at least within this 6-day window and not reaching out 12, 13 days to get out of the ground. Next thing we looked at is our planting depth. Another thing we can easily adjust with our planter. So some guys will talk about chasing moisture or following heat up, so moving the planter up and down. So we looked at what happens when we try to chase moisture lower into the soil. Well, here's the stock quality of 3-inch depth planting versus 1.5 inches, which is where we like to be, between 1.5 inches and 2 inches. This is probably going to tip over easier in the wind than this. But what can be deceiving is the ear quality. Here's our 1.5 inch ear quality versus 3-inch. Now when you first look at these, there's not a terrible lot of difference, maybe 2 rows more on this. But the big difference is if you can see closely, this ear is starting to dent on the kernel. It's exiting the dough stage. This ear is still in the active milk stage. It's still accumulating sugar. So this corn is going to reach physiological maturity and be ready to combine up to 2 weeks before this corn. And when we talk about an early fall and dryer gas, this can be very economic impact having it that late. So again, what we wanted to touch on is how do we affect these factors through the work we can do on our planter. So talk to your local crop advisor, see what tools you'd like to implement and how your emergence is affecting your yield. Thanks.